Before we get started today, I know it's very common for a lot of YouTubers these days to ask you to subscribe and then show you a little graphic like, oh my god, like only 10% of people who are watching are subscribed. This does not apply to you guys. Thank you very much for already being subscribed and thanks for watching. Hello everyone, it's the Canadian Wifier here. I have a team that just got banned. Roaring Moon is no longer with us and overused, and I wouldn't even bring you this video if I wasn't proud of the nicknames on this team. I made a little Zelda kind of themed team because like, this thing, it's Roaring Moon. Like, there's one Roaring Moon in our pop culture, and it's Majora's Mask. There also happens to be a Mask Pokemon that's very good in OU right now, and just in general, I had a lot of fun using this team, and it made me sad to delete it. It's also an interesting showcase, I guess, for future, just to see how ridiculous Roaring Moon was. Onto the team, we have bulky Terra Fairy, Terra Blast knockoff Roaring Moon. Definitely one of the sets I've ever used. It reminded me a lot of Mega Salamence, to be completely honest, back in like 2014 or whenever that was, that we got Mega Salamence, and it just felt like every single game you're basically just waiting to bring in your Ments and win. We got Defensive Pecharunt, we have Standard Spin to win, Great Tusk, we have Assault Vest, Iron Crown, which is a great little pivot, we have Ivy Cudgel Pokemon. I don't even remember the actual name because all it does is click Ivy Cudgel. I have the 2 stabs plus U-turn for a little bit of momentum on this offensive team, and you'll see Princess Zelda there on the far right. She gets replaced about halfway through this video as I found I was too weak to Sun. Looking at the opponent's team, he's got some cool things. He's got some unorthodox Pokemon, but they are all good. Malignant Chain, I don't know if I've uploaded with Pecharunt yet before, but this Pokemon's absurd. Its ability auto-confuses any opponent that is toxic, and Malignant Chain, the move, has a 50% chance to inflict toxic poison, so you're basically just sitting here fishing for toxic poison plus confusion on every Pokemon. It's very fast, it has Recover, it also has Parting Shot. You basically just fish for bullshit, and you're also a Ghost type, so it's just a fantastic defensive Pokemon. Gonna be able to basically neuter his Great Neck, and then Parting Shot out as we exchange Stealth Rock. He goes out into his Teapot, and I'm actually quite scared of this thing, but I know I'll not only get an attack boost right away by going to Fluffy Salamence, but I'll also be able to threaten him with Knockoff, and if I get one Dragon Dance, despite him Strength Sapping, I'll still get the Speed and the Photosynthesis boost, which allows me to kill him. I Terra Fairy and absolutely blow back the Keldeo, and the threat of Earthquake, as I have not yet revealed Roost, forces his King Gambit to Terra Flying just to kill me off with Iron Head. So now that there's a hole blown inside of my opponent's team, I can go out into Great Tusk, scare him out. Unfortunately, Moltres comes in and I don't really have a way to deal with this thing. So thinking in my head, I'm like, Gallade has a lot of special defense, I'll go to Iron Valiant. That's not the case, and Moltres is still a fat problem. Luckily, I don't just have 2 big threats on this team, I have 3 big threats on this team, plus like a little pivot core, and that is going to allow me to basically clean up this game here as I kill off 2 Pokemon with Ivy Cudgel. And once he brings out his Cuphead, I reveal that my other stab is not Power Whip, it's actually Horn Leech, which allows me to recover back quite a bit of health. He just gets me out of there with a Whirlwind, but now that he has the knowledge that I will be able to keep myself healthy, he knows he cannot win, and he is forced to forfeit in the first game. So that's basically how this team works. It's just some yucky hyper offense with 3 big threats, and then, like I said, 2 pivot Pokemon, and then a Great Tusk for rapid spin support, floppy helmet damage, and a little bit of Stealth Rock. On to the second game here. We have a battle against not only Rain, but also Sticky Web. Looking at his team, it's unique for sure. It doesn't look to have too many Rain abusers outside of just Ivy Cudgel Pokemon and maybe Thunder on his Great Neck. So predicting either a Pelipper or a Sticky Web Pokemon lead, I'm going to lead off with my Tachyon Cutter Iron Crown, because I know they're both not appreciative of a Volt Switch on the first turn. He leads with Pelipper, and I go for a Future Sight just because I don't think he's going to be able to do too much to me, thinking I could do like a Future Sight then Volt Switch, but he burns his Terra turn 1 on Terra Ground Pelipper just so that he doesn't die to Volt Switch. Now that I'm in with Ivy Cudgel, he is going to die to Future Sight, and I figure he wants to save his Pelipper. So turn 2, I'm able to get an SD, and then whatever's coming in is also taking a Future Sight. So just fantastic synergy so far. I've lost my Iron Crown, but I'm up. His Pelipper is basically dead, and his Corviknight is dead. I don't think I can kill this with Ivy Cudgel, and I don't want to blow my Terra Water in the rain. It is quite bulky, so predicting a Thunder, I'm going to go out into my Floppy Helmet Great Tusk as I go for the rocks, and then I'm able to spin to get a little speed boost here to kill off his Pelipper, which is sweet, because again, even if he wanted to switch there, I'd be faster than whatever he brings in. Unfortunately, I am scared of Ogerpon in the rain, especially his Ivy Cudgel move. Luckily, I do have a Water Absorb Pokemon, so like Ogerpon can kind of come in on Ogerpon, but now seeing that he went for Trailblaze, he's trying to set up, I can go right out into my defensive Ghost Pecharunt thing. because I know I can live an Ivy Cudgel even in the rain, and I'm not even going to try to fish for the bullshit. I'm just going to Parting Shot, which allows me to go right out into Roaring Moon, and now that he's lost his Corviknight, this game is pretty much all over as I get the Photosynthesis attack boost, then a Dragon Dance attack boost, which is basically, I don't think it's quite double attack, but it's something weird because the Photosynthesis attack boost isn't actually like a +1. It's also unremovable, which is insane. Regardless, you saw, I went for Dragon Dance and I clean everything out with Knock Off and Terra Blast. This thing, you don't even get boosted damage on it because Knock Off doesn't knock off his mask, but it still just cleans it out. The way Terra works, if you're new to the generation, is you still get stab on all your old moves. So even though I'm just a fairy type here, I'm still getting stab on knockoff, so it's like stab fairy and stab knockoff on like a crazy attack, fast Pokemon with a great defensive typing and roost. It really is obnoxious. He doesn't kill me with Iron Head because he clearly was running low kick instead of Iron Head for other King Gambits, but I have 5 other Pokemon to take it, so it didn't even matter. On to the third game. This is a very interesting team. He looks to be running some kind of offense as well. Kind of the same situation as me with a defensive steal, a couple pivots, and then 3 fat threats. Let's go ahead and get right into this battle. As I predict the lead Tinkaton, I'm going to lead off with my Iron Crown. Iron Crown is a very strong Pokemon. Tachyon Cutter is a very strong neutral attack against Tinkaton, and I want to get Tinkaton off screen ASAP because I know it loves to do first turn shenanigans. Unfortunately, it is I who is shenaniganed upon, as he holds up a red card, pulling me out into Fluffy Salamence, paralyzing me, encoring me into Knockoff, getting up rocks. I don't have rocks, my Salamence is useless. What a terrible first few turns for your hero. Goes out into Ogerpon, I stay in just to kind of prevent him from wanting to set up, as I'm still a threat even though I am paralyzed, and I have a perfectly fine switch in Peturunt, which allows me to come in and just go for a Malignant Chain, fish for my hacks. I do not get rewarded this time, but I am able to just recover back up because this thing is very, very, very bulky. I could Parting Shot on this turn, but if you look at his team, nothing really appreciates a Malignant Chain. So let's fish again, and this time, if you count it as getting rewarded, I get rewarded with the Toxic and the Confusion on the Darkrai. Not wanting to die to Dark Pulse and knowing Doritos can take 1, I switch out into Doritos, and knowing that I will be faster after Cork Drive activates, I can come on out, kill it with Fire Dance. Unfortunately, my rewards stop there. I do not get the special attack boost. That special attack boost would have allowed me to kill this Dragapult here with Dazzling Gleam, but he kills me instead with the Life Orb Draco Meteor. Out into Iron Crown I go for a quick Future Sight as he switches into Ogerpon, and if you look at his team, nothing really wants to take this Future Sight, so this allows me to sack my Peturunt, and on this turn he can choose to either sack something else and let me recover, or sack his Ogerpon and take the kill, and he opts to take the kill with Ogerpon, leaving him 3 Pokemon left. I go out into my V for Ivy Cudgel, and unfortunately I misplay, I let it get burned, and I don't even kill with Horn Leech. I should have Ivy Cudgeled. So I'm down to 0 fat threats remaining. I just have a couple bulky pivot Pokemon, and he still has a team. How will your hero get out of this one? Luckily, I don't die to Hex, and I'm still alive as he goes out into his Great Tusk, allowing me to get about half off of Ivy Cudgel. He spins to win, gets a little bit faster with his Tusk. But luckily for me, my Wheel of Fortune, spin to win. Am I going to Ice Spinner? Am I going to Rapid Spinner? Spin the wheel! Between the Bloppy Helmet and the Ice Spinner, I'm able to take out his Great Tusk, still be on the field and pose a moderate threat, preventing him from setting up, as I can go for a Headlong Rush, forcing him to Terra Fairy and kill me with Moonblast. Luckily, I have a defensive Assault Vest Steel type left, and I'll be able to come in and kill with Tachyon Cutter. But he whipped out Destiny Bond. Quick, does anyone remember how this interaction works? Who wins? I win! I think it's the same as Explosion, where if you're the one who uses the self-KO move at the end of the battle and everyone dies, you lose. But I thought that was a pretty interesting finish, not something you see every day, and it also kind of showcased that even if you lose your Salamence on the first few turns and you misplay all of your big fat threats, the rest of the team, the pivots, are still strong enough to kind of carry you through to victory. On to the final battle here, and definitely the one I was most looking forward to bringing you today, my final ever battle with Roaring Moon, and the one that also changed my opinion once and for all that, yeah, maybe this Pokemon is pretty stupid. My opponent has an interesting team. I have yet to see a Tentacruel this generation, and I've never faced whatever that futuristic-looking Terrakion is. Assuming it's somewhat similar to lead Terrakion, I'm going to lead with my Steel type that hits Steel type damage twice, as I lead off with my Daddy Metagross. As Daddy Metagross is going to scare out the Kyurem turn 1, and I'm just going to go for my Tachyon Cutter, but unfortunately Ting Lu with his special attack lowering ability is going to take approximately 0 from that attack. I go right out into Ivy Cudgel because I know I can scare him out, and predicting him to want to save his Ting Lu very early on in the game, I'm going to be aggressive and go right for a turn 2 Swords Dance, as the Skarmory is now going to get blown back for 75% by the Ivy Cudgel and only goes for an Iron Defense, so it looks like his goose is cooked. but it is my goose that has been cooked, as he whips out the Terra Dragon, goes for roost, and is even going to plop me with the ploppy helmet on my way out as I go for a U-turn for a little bit more chip. As I go out into my Pecharunt, as he's forced to roost up, and now that he's no longer a steel type, he is weak to the Malignant Chain. I go for one, and Tentacruel comes out, and thinking, wow, Tentacruel and Overused must be pretty bulky, he probably won't be faster than me, and I can just Parting Shot on him. Unfortunately, he is faster, and he's able to pop my balloon. But I bring out Great Tusk just to threaten him with ground damage as he gets blopped himself by the Flipter and Bloppy Helmet. And Skarmory is able to come out, take the Headlong Rush, not knowing if his last move is Brave Bird or not. I go for the Ice Spinner. I'm like, if you want to take the kill on my Great Tusk, I will force you to die to the recoil damage. But he doesn't reveal that. He just goes for Roost twice, and I'm like, okay, I'll use this opportunity to get up my rocks, and I'll go back out into Pecharunt, because I'm pretty sure your last attack is going to be Body Press, and now that he reveals Spikes, I know it's Body Press, so I know that this thing completely walls it. At this point, I'm pretty sure he's going to go for the Snowy Reception out into his Kyurem, so to get ahead of that, I'm going to go for a Parting Shot out into my Daddy Metagross to prevent him from going into Kyurem, or at least to deter him. And I'm just going to pause it right here. There are a few things I want to get to in this game. One, the early Terra by my opponent opened up the door for my Fluffy Salamence, which I took notice of. If you look at his team now, I mean, even from Team Preview, it was very, very weak to Dragon Dance Salamence. But now that he can't surprise defensive Terra me during the sweep, I know that if I was to get up a Dragon Dance, I pretty much just win the game on the spot. The second thing is the way that he brought this in almost feels like he's baiting me and he's going to double out into Kyurem. Kyurem gets a defense boost in the snow, and they love to set up Dragon Dance or a special set that goes for Substitute, and I don't really have an answer to that outside of this Daddy Metagross, which is already in. So thinking that he brought out Ting-Lu to then double out into Kyurem, as I'm going to be scared out this turn by the Ting-Lu, I'm going to end up into some random Pokemon that Kyurem will be able to take advantage of. I'm going to overthink the shit out of this turn, and I'm going to stay in on the Ting-Lu and go for Tachyon Cutter, expecting the Kyurem to come out. Unfortunately, that's a lot of egg on my face, as I take an Earthquake. I live with 3, which is great. I'm going to get off a Future Sight here as I die, as he uses the opportunity to get up his Plops, and at this point, I might as well get a little bit more damage with Tachyon Cutter, as he can Whirlwind or kill me with Earthquake or whatever he wants to do. I'm on the back foot now, I'm very scared, so I notice there's too much shit on my side of the field, and I do have a free Rapid Spin. There is a Future Sight in the air, so if he wants to switch out, he's not only conceding the Rapid Spin, but also taking a Future Sight, and if he stays in, then I get a free Rapid Spin. So here's Wheel of Fortune. He wants to save a little bit of health on his Ting-Lu, as he knows I have Ice Spinner. He goes out into Skarmory to get the Ploppy Helmet on me, and one last big Ploppy Helmet, he's able to kill off my Great Tusk. However, this has completely opened the door to my Fluffy Salamence. Unfortunately, the thing with Roaring Moon that made it so disgusting is you don't know whether it's going to be a Choice Band set, you don't know whether it's going to be a Dark set, a Flying set. He stays in to go for a Body Press, but psych, I'm Defensive Terra Fairy, and I'm able to get my Photosynthesis attack boost, my Dragon Dance boost. I'm now a Fairy type, I'm now just sweeping clean through his team. It's bulky enough to live whatever that attack was. Mighty Cleave by Iron Boulder. Are we playing Digimon? I know that I'm going to be outsped, but I feel like I can live, so I might as well Dragon Dance, because I'll be faster on the next turn. And at this point, we're just going to Terra Blast and knock off through the entire rest of his team, and Fluffy Salamence has dug himself a grave he cannot climb back out of. This thing is very, very, very busted. Glad that they voted to ban it. I mean, I haven't really been swept by it too much, but I built one quick little hyper offense team around it. And in like the dozen games that I played with it, it probably swept people in more than half of them. And yeah, it just, and the real kicker was the versatility. I mean, like Bandit and Scarf on this is fantastic because a lot of people are predicting you to set up with it. And then you can do like bulky setup. I saw bulky ground with Earthquake. I saw Terra Flying with Acrobatics, obviously, because then you don't have an item because of Photosynthesis, so you're already strong. And a very strong knockoff off of a Dark type with 140 attack and 120 speed is very, very hot. And as soon as you can Terra Fairy and Dragon Dance and then Boost and Roost and all the other rhyming words, yes, this thing was a little too hot for OU. So I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. I do really enjoy bringing you these, and you can tell because this is my 3rd video in a month, which is unprecedented for me. Do you think there will be a 4th? I don't know. Let me know down below. That's it for me today. That's all I have for you. Until next time, blop!